On today's Fellowship of the Rink, a staple in the Minnesota hockey community was taken from us far too early, and we do our best to do her some justice. Pat Micheletti joins to talk about Bob Motzko finding a new head coach for the Gophers and just how we pave the right path forward. Producer Isha and I stay on and talk a little Minnesota Wild, what the teams looked like of late, what the chances are moving into the postseason, and a couple of weird quirks with the lineup going forward. This episode is brought to you, as always, by our incredible local friends at Waggle Golf. Shop the new drop that just hit recently, whether that's on the app, which I highly recommend for everyone. Download that wherever. I guess if you're Apple, do it at the App Store, Android, Google Store, whatever it is. But the other option is get your waggle on .com. And regardless, make sure you throw in promo code SP10 to take 10% off your entire order. Enjoy the show. Welcome back for another installment of Fellowship of the Rink. Here with producer Isha, and opening on a little bit more of a somber note, and I'm sure most of you in the Minnesota hockey community, the greater hockey community as a whole, I hope this isn't where you're learning about this, but for those who aren't aware, we lost one of the best members of our community this weekend. Jessie Pierce and her 3 children and the family dog all passed away in a house fire. People always say they don't have the words, and I really just don't. It is, the words I can come up with are unfathomable, unfair, just still haven't even fully processed or accepted what has happened. I literally went back and just listened to her most recent podcasts, both on Bar Down Beauties and with Judd Zolgad and the guys on Score North. It's I have not come to full acceptance that I won't be able to grab a beer with her ever again. Mm-hmm. And anyone that's done any engagement with her online knows how awesome of a person she is, but also just the most unapologetically Jessie
herself
that she could possibly be. The least amount of fucks given about what anyone else could think. And admittedly, that's not me at all. I've gotten a lot better, but growing up, I cared way too much about what people thought in general. And the one thing that's kind of my Jessieism, which of course she latched onto right away, Isha, is my drive for hoodie short season when it's technically not warm enough for shorts yet, but the second I would do it, she's always like, yes, my people. But
40 degrees.
She has done a ton across the hockey community here. She's done a ton of collaborative stuff on our shows since the dawn of time. It's been 6 years.
Hobby, since before you were even part of the show, Jessie Pierce was one of the first 10 guests that I had when I was just connecting with people in Minnesota back in 2019.
Do you remember my story with that?
Oh yeah.
So I'm brand new into podcasting stuff. You kind of roped me into doing this with you after I jumped on once, and you're like, oh, hey, new co-host. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm doing this. And you told me to try and go find guests to jump on with us. And I reached out to Jessie, and I came back all proud of myself. I'm like, yeah, dude, I got Jessie. You're like, yeah, dude, I've had her on before. I'm like, God damn it. All right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was stoked. But I was like, oh yeah, I mean, I know Jessie Pierce.
She's this wasn't a big pull, but thank you. Not because she's not a big pull, but because yeah, dude, of course she said yes.
Dude.
So
going off of that note too, though, just all the Twitter live shows when, right at the tail end of COVID. And
no, the spaces.
Space, yeah, sorry, that's the Twitter
Jesse Spaces Pierce is basically what her new name was.
Oh my god, dude. Her, Seth, and just like, the hardcore crew of wild Twitter, or that section of wild Twitter, and just you said it, just unapologetically herself, the stories that she would tell. Just an amazing person to interact with. I had the pleasure of meeting her when I first, like, in person, after she jumped on the podcast a few times, when I came to visit all you guys in Minnesota before moving here. And she like took time, like working a game, to come hang out with us, talk with us for a little bit. And another thing that just makes me smile too. She was just always in the community. Every like random, and I don't leave the house much. Every random community event that I went to, you don't go to many concerts. The one concert we went to and the bar beforehand, she was there. She was everywhere, either doing stuff for the community, with the community, or just like at all like the big shows that are in the cities and things like that. So lived life to the fullest. I met her when she was pregnant with her third kid. So like literally like just watching, her grow up with her sons and everything. I mean, I've been crying all day and I'm emotional right now, but like we're just here to talk about the good times and share like our obviously, interactions with her and how we met. And yeah, it's crazy, man. It's just the emotions have come in waves like all day. And I've lost friends and people close to me before, and it does come in waves, and it's like you go from like not thinking it's real to it like hitting you like a ton of bricks, right?
Yeah, and I'm honestly, weirdly, I'm in the upswing of that right now. Like I've had some pretty tough moments throughout the weekend since learning about this, and like right now it's more like, okay, we're talking about good stuff. We're going to be okay and get through this right now. And you mentioned it was the OAR charity concert, Crazy Game of Hockey for the Minnesota Wild. And that was the only time that I've met her from what I gathered in that experience and what everyone else is saying online. Awesome husband, Mike. Seemed like a really good dude. And my heart is broken for him. I don't need to tell him that. He's hearing it from everyone. He knows it. I can't imagine what he's going through, and do have to point out, if this is your first time hearing about it, people have posted all about it on social media as of now. We'll share it in the description on YouTube and audio feed, but there is a GoFundMe for Mike, for funeral arrangements, just for like, I don't even know what, man. Like I can't imagine what he's going through or what he needs right now, but
for whatever support he needs,
like
it's there.
And if you can't like give money, like I totally understand. I've been in an awkward spot before where like my father-in-law had to like have an emergency liver transplant. Like I know how hard it is to give money, ask for money. Like if you don't have money to give, that's okay. Please share though, so other people can be aware and potentially donate, because I don't know, money's not going to fix anything. Money's not going to bring them back. But if there's anything we can do to help Mike out through this, let's just call it what it is, fucking bullshit time, let's do what we can. But Jesse, not just like the stories that she told and the fun times we had, like her persona and bits online, like you knew you were going to get the bikini out in the snow. You knew you were going to get paddleboard updates. You knew there was going to be post-game Taco Bell. And the one that like weirdly just hit and gutted me when I saw it is the last post she made. Took the boys out on Friday for the grand opening for a scoop of ice cream like they do every year. And like, it's like nothing's going to make it okay, but it's just like, oh my gosh, they like went out on such an awesome, like happy, positive day. And we don't know any details about like what caused the fire, how it all transpired, but all we can say with confidence is that Minnesota hockey lost an incredible person, and just the surrounding story with all of this it's tragic that she, her 3 kids, family dog, all lost to a house fire. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Hug your friends, call your loved ones. And,
hug them twice.
Yeah. I mean, I know we said we didn't have the words. We had some words there, and we'll continue to celebrate Jesse Pierce's life as the season and rest of the year goes on. But yeah, I don't got much more to say on the matter right now.
No,
and this is probably the hardest right turn we've ever had to take in fucking podcast history.
And we don't have to even take it. We're just going to pass it over to an interview that we had already banked on Friday with Minnesota icon, who went through some tough times this year himself, and we're thrilled that he's on the upswing from that. Pat Micheletti here to talk about Bob Motzko's ousting, what this year was for the Golden Gophers, and how we pave a path forward. Let's kick it over to Pat. This interview is brought to you by our friends at Waggle Golf. Waggle Golf believes what you wear on the course should reflect your individuality, who you are, where you're from, your hobbies, interests, and passions. All the stuff that makes you, well, you. That's why every design is inspired by the desire to create a piece of apparel that strikes a chord when you see it. That makes you say, wow, that was made for me. Because in a lot of ways, it was. Ready to get your waggle on? Go to getyourwaggleon.com. Throw in promo code SP10 at checkout to take 10% off your entire order. Joining the show today, I don't know if any of you have heard of him before, especially not the Minnesotans listening. Now, apparently, he's obviously been covering the Gophers for quite some time, and this year dabbled a little bit heavier into even the state hockey tournament. I don't know where it's going to end, but Pat Micheletti, thanks for jumping on with us.
It's great to be with you guys. I've been looking forward to this since Joe got in touch with me. Very happy to join you guys today.
Well, it's great to have you on. And it's great to just see you back on the airwaves, high school hockey, college hockey, all that. How are you doing, Pat? I know we went through some scary stuff here this year, but I'm glad it seems like things are going great.
Getting there. I have a ways to go, but craziest thing that's ever happened to me in my life, really. Virus hit me, and then it attacked my nerves, and I in the hospital 24 days, and my legs were like the size of toothpicks, and so and really just started walking about a month and a half ago, and so it was a grinding through it and getting stronger, a little bit every day. So thank you for asking, and it's great to be back.
And then on a less serious note, is the toughest part of the rehab that you have Alex as your chauffeur?
I call him my Sherpa. You guys know what a Sherpa is, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, he took me to Beyond the Pond. He took me to all the games. A little overbearing, but lucky to have him, to help me out through all this. So it's been good.
I'll tell you, I still have PTSD from when I was doing my driver's training, and my dad was the front seat with me. And it was not one of those driver's training cars. It was an actual car. So he didn't have any mechanisms to stop me. He would always, if I was going too fast or to stop, he would, smash the dashboard with his hand. Yep. Which, you don't want to startle a young driver, right?
Yeah, well, I know. And especially Alex, right? So, no, but it's been great. And, I can't thank, everybody who's kind of helped me through this, because, it's, you don't know if you're going to walk again. You don't know anything. Yeah. And so, but it's great to be back.
Well, as you can see, Pat, the name of our podcast is Fellowship of the Rink, which is a stick tap to our Lord of the Ring fandom and all that stuff. I don't know if are you Lord of the Rings fan, or if you have anything
Well, no, but I tease my kids that I am, and I tell them, "Oh, hey, did you see? I don't know, season whatever, or I don't even know. You guys are weird." So, so I make fun of them, and and they laugh because I don't. So I apologize for not, but I claim that I have.
It's okay. You can
Yeah.
name drop. There's 3 movies, and then there's
I'm
like
gonna.
topic to show. So
Next time I'm on, I'm gonna floor you guys with my knowledge of Lord of the Rings.
we appreciate that.
Yeah.
But do you have like a nerd itch, so to speak? Do you have like a movie series, a book series? You collect something? Do you have some sort of quirky thing you're into that you're like, oh, this is something that I really enjoy?
No, I like I like the old war movies of I don't know, you might be too young, Joe. God, I'm old. The Dirty Dozen, Kelly's Heroes, all of those old war kind of comical but good war movies. But other than that, no. I'm a man that is diversified. How about that?
There you go.
Yeah, I was a big Star Wars guys. The earlier version.
Okay.
So I'm whatever.
The best and worst aspect of being one of 9 children in the house. What are the best and the worst?
I'll start where there wouldn't have been 9 if I was first. My mother always told me it took her 9 times to get it right. And I concur with her. Now there may be disagreements in my family about that, but I'm gonna stick with that. No, learning humility, Joe. I think we grew up in a 3-bedroom house the size of a hotel room, and you learn just to get by, and everyone helping each other out. And I'm the youngest, so everyone took care of me, but you learn that, and so we didn't know any better, and so we are very grateful for everything that we had, and my parents instilled that in us, and so I was very lucky to have my older brothers and sisters to show me the way and to learn how to treat people, and so very lucky, very lucky.
And aside from you and Joe, who has the coolest job among your siblings? Is there kind of somebody has a fun career?
Besides me, no one. I'm the luckiest guy in the world to be able to do what I'm able to do. And, we've had, my brother Tom was a lawyer and a power executive for a long time. And, various things that they did, but, all of us, so sports oriented. But, Joe and I think, had the best jobs.
Speaking of jobs, obviously the biggest news of the week in Minnesota hockey, of course, is Bob Motzko mutually deciding with the school to leave or be his last year. And just, I know Bob as well as anybody. Just what was your gut reaction to what happened the last week?
Yeah, sadness, because I feel bad that he had to go out the way he did, or wanted to go out the way it ended. Bob brought this program back, and he did so many great things and included so many people, and you can't put a price tag on what he did for the program. And he's a good friend of mine. I'm happy that he's at peace with the decision, and but very thankful for what he did for Gopher Hockey. No question about it.
Well, I think people will probably forget like what it was like at the program, like in the mid 2010s, right? Or before we got there, like Mariucci wasn't like the arena wasn't the atmosphere that it was now. So I think people kind of probably get lost with that.
Yep. And what people don't understand, and poor coach of Minnesota, it's a very difficult job. There's a lot of things involved other than coaching the team, and he was able to handle that, I think, as well as anybody, from the media to donors to the alumni. And there are just so many things. And I think he handled it as well as anybody has ever done here at Minnesota. And he's got to be commended for that. And his legacy will be a great legacy, not what happened this past year. And so, I just, to answer your question, I was saddened, but happy for him that he's in a good spot.
And I mean, there's a lot of things we can point at this year, Pat, but from your angle, just break it down. What happened this season?
Well, and to his credit and to the demise of the team this year, he opted not to go into the portal. He honored the scholarships and the players that were brought in. Now, some of them probably needed another year junior. And so they're gone. And, portal players are in. Well, all of a sudden you have a different team. And so he knew what he was getting into. We all thought that as the season went along, it would get better. Big Ten's a tough conference, and they had a stretch in January where you're playing the number 1 team, the number 2 team, and back to back, and it kind of went south from there. So it was tough to get any traction, for this team in the back half of the year, and that's when you have to make your hay in terms of NPI and home ice or whatever, and they just couldn't get it. And if you're not playing your best hockey at this time of the year, it's going to be awfully tough. And it proved out that way.
Yeah, and on that front, you see how well some of the other teams have done it, particularly in the Big Ten. Yeah. But do you think that there should have been more consideration given to the new access to CHL players, or how do you feel about all of that?
Yeah. And they were very well aware of that, and they had just made the decision to honor the guys that were coming in and not send them back for another year or whatever the case may be. And that was a decision that they made. And it didn't work out because you saw what Michigan did, you saw what Michigan State did, you saw what Penn State did. And when you're getting high end players like that and you're not, it's going to be a problem. And so we saw what happened.
I don't know to what extent you want to speak to this, Pat, and maybe you're not sure either, but I wonder how much of it is Bob not going after them and the school just saying, we're not going to spend that kind of money to bring in those kind of players. Do you know where the balance is of is that a factor?
I will start with this. And there's money numbers being thrown out that are egregiously wrong, and I'll start with Gavin McKenna, and that number.
Yeah.
That number was not the number that he got, but who cares? If he did get it, fine. But, whatever. No, I don't think that was a school thing at all. I think there were enough resources there at Minnesota where they could have ventured out that way. They opted not to, quite frankly. Will they, with this coaching change coming? I think they will. I don't think it's going to be outlandish money. I don't think they're going to overpay to get a guy. I think there's, I just don't. Will they use it? Will they hit the portal? They have to. They have to. And so, and I think they will. But figures being thrown out there are egregiously wrong. They just are. So I'll leave it there.
You mentioned his legacy before, and obviously the things we mentioned of bringing the program back and the fan base, and obviously the Frozen Fours. Like, what do you think at the end of the day, like maybe 10 years from now, they'll think of this era of Minnesota hockey? And I mean, maybe it won't just be like the overtime against Quinnipiac or whatever like that. Like how will he kind of, now that there's more space between then and later on, like how do you think he'll be remembered as far as that part of Gopher hockey?
I just think everyone will come back to where the program was and what he did to rebuild it. And that's hard. It's not easy because once you're down, I mean, and everybody has ups and downs in college. I mean, everyone, the flavor of the month today is going to be Team X, and they can keep that going for a while. It is hard to keep it going for a long time. It really is. And once you're down, it's, you have to work awfully hard to get it back. And Bob brought it back in a very fast fashion. And, when you're getting Logan Cooley and Brock Faber and Jackson Lacombe and players of that magnitude to come to a program that was down, even though it's Minnesota, that's hard. That's hard because you've got other schools, and you all know who they are, that are saying, hey, come here. We're good right now. And, and those guys did. And that's because of what Bob did. That is going to be remembered. That is not going to be forgotten. And his legacy will live on.
Another big thing that we can pretty easily point to for this year, on top of just a ridiculous schedule. Oh my God. But a lot of guys left that Bob wasn't expecting to.
Yeah.
And we can, go ahead.
I mean, over 45% of the scoring, right? And you didn't expect Sam Renzel to leave. You didn't expect, Matthew Wood was coming back until Nashville called and said, we're giving you an NHL contract. You're in the lineup tomorrow night. And that's the truth. I mean, he had told Bob he's coming back. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden he wasn't. And so, you lose, Oliver Moore, I think we knew was going to go. But when you lose that much scoring, and you can't use that as an excuse. That is a feather in the hat that you have guys that are close to being NHL ready. And we saw 4 of them were, right? And, and Renzel was up and down. Do I think they all could have used another year? Of course. But, this is what happens now. And so, it was, that's what happened.
Yeah. Are we worried at all? Are you concerned that we might see more of the same this offseason?
No, because look at the year they had. And there's probably one player that is ready, or maybe not even ready, that probably needs another year, and that's Brody Zemer. And I've told Brody that, I think all kids really need another year. And ask Brock Faber what that did for him. Ask Jackson Lacombe what that did for him. Those guys all could have signed, and they didn't. And so, listen, when you have a good program and you get players of that magnitude, that's the consequences of it. And can you have guys that are ready to come in? Sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't. And, obviously we saw that this year.
And with everything going on in college hockey and the portal and stuff like that, I think we kind of all expect a new coach for the Gophers to be coming relatively soon. I know, I'm curious for your thoughts on some of the names, at least, that we feel or think are in the mix, whether it's Garrett or Grant Patolny or Brett Larson. I wasn't sure. Are those guys the ones you're looking at, and what will be the strengths of each guy?
I would say you're pretty spot on with those 3 names. I can't say a lot more, but I think you're pretty spot on at the names that you just threw out there.
Well, I think it's different because, like Garrett has experience with the program and some of those guys you mentioned in recruiting and stuff like that. And so I wonder, like, if you're going for a younger guy on the rise versus other guys we mentioned have been coaching for a long time, head coaches for a long time too. I wasn't sure what you think, what the direction of the program might is best for the program, I guess. So,
all right, you want the Pat Micheletti overview? And I'm speaking for no one but Pat Micheletti.
Yes, of course.
I think you need a little. Minnesota's a different animal. It's in no disrespect to other schools. And you put Minnesota in with Wisconsin, Michigan State, the bigger schools.
Yeah.
Those jobs are different animals. You are having to deal with a lot of different things that I had mentioned earlier, when earlier in our conversation. And so I think you need someone with experience. I think you need someone who is savvy with the media, who has the ability to deal with donors, who has the ability to deal with the administrative stuff that you have to deal with. I think you need to be a hell of a recruiter. I think you have to have a really, really good staff and able to bring in that staff and trust your staff, and also be able to deal with the alumni. And what I mean by deal with the alumni is not it's a, how do I explain it? The alumni is not in charge of the program. The alumni is there, or should be there, to support the head coach, and should be at the whim of the head coach in terms of what that head coach needs. And so I think the head coach needs, and Bob was terrific at this, in being able to understand the alumni and yet use the alumni for things that were needed. And that's not an easy job. It really isn't, because you have a lot of egos that played at the University of Minnesota, a lot of great players, and a lot of players that think they know everything, if that makes sense. And so to be able to deal with that, I think is super important. And you've got to be strong, but you have to be a good listener, and all of those things. So that's what I kind of look at in terms of the leadership for the next guy at the University of Minnesota.
Yeah, and tacking onto all the responsibilities you just laid out, like, we're in such a crazy time now of change in college hockey. Yep. How important do you think it is to add a GM to the mix?
I think those two letters are really, really overblown in college athletics. Okay. I think it's a big term, because when you think GM, you think GM of a National Hockey League team. Sure. You think of GM of a National Football League team, of baseball, of pro sports. I like to look at it in terms of, if you want to use that term, you can use that term, and that term will be used. Okay. And it's there. I think you need someone in a position that is your recruiting coordinator, that really oversees that deals with the NIL, that deals with advisors, agents, whatever you want to call them, so the coach doesn't have to get as heavily involved in that. Now, he will be involved because he's the head coach, and he should be, but just someone to take something off his plate, because I think that's an important piece. I personally do not like to call it a GM.
Fair.
Okay. But if that's what it is, then what it is. I like to call it more of a recruiting coordinator.
Okay. Fair.
Yeah, and that's a huge piece to the next hire at Minnesota.
segueing over to the professional hockey team,
Yes.
the men's professional hockey team here at the Minnesota Wild. Obviously going through a tough stretch right now. I think we've all seen them play at a really high level for a good portion of the season. Are you a believer in the sense that it's okay to call them a true cup contender, or have you been here long enough to know like what's being teased versus what actually is the reality, I guess?
Here's what I like, Joe. I like the fact that Guerin was able to pivot after he knew that he wasn't going to get a number one center.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I think what he did was, okay, I think I've got enough scoring up front with Boldy, Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Ek to a certain degree. Tarasenko to a certain degree. Hartman to a certain degree. Okay. Let's not forget, Ryan Hartman was probably their best player in the playoffs last year.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so I think there's a switch that will be turned on once that playoff starts. But to your point, I think he did a nice pivot in bringing in a guy like McCarron and bringing in a Nick Foligno, a grizzled guy who can play hard in the playoffs. And I think that they're going to be, I think once the dust is settled, because I think guys, that just because you bring them in and they're in the lineup, oh boy, it's changed. And they've lost 3 in a row now, and whatever the case may be. I think that there is a process where you get them acclimated to the team. B, you get them to understand how the Minnesota Wild does things, routines, locker room, practices, whatever that is, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then C, implementing how they're going to play. And I don't think that has all come together yet. So hence, I'm not worried. I like it. And I think once that happens and they have, 13 games left, right?
Yeah.
12. I
think
think
so,
they
yeah.
have to, I think they have that time to get, to build to that crescendo. And once the playoffs start, I think they're going to be a beast to play against. Doesn't mean they're going to win. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Hey, Dallas and Colorado, right? But you know what? Dallas and Colorado are thinking, man, Minnesota's going to be tough to play against. So, you know what? Who builds that momentum in that first round? Who wins game 1? Who punches him in the face in game 2? I think the playoffs are won, in my mind, all about momentum and building that, and then having that confidence, and then you kind of roll, and keeping that momentum is, I think, going to be the key. And I really believe with the makeup of the team that they have now, I think they're better in the bottom 6. I really do, and I think people are worried about scoring. I think when you play heavy like that, you play hard, you make it difficult on the other team, and so I think they're a team that is built to have a chance. Am I going to say a cup contender? Well, you know what? There's about 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 that think they are cup contenders. I hope Minnesota goes into the playoffs thinking, you know what, we're a cup contender. Let's go out and do it.
My last question for me, Pat, is Quinn Hughes, obviously the blockbuster acquisition in December. We've seen them, I think, getting more appreciation of a player when you see them every day versus like a couple times a year or on TV. And in the landscape of what the Wild have to go through in terms of Dallas and Colorado with Makar and Heiskanen, how much of an X factor you think having Hughes is in terms of making the Wild more of a team that could go through that versus the one we've seen in previous seasons?
I'm glad you brought that up, because with the lack of a number one center that they did not get, and so you're looking for offense, and come on, what's he have? 40 something and 30 something games. That is absolutely huge. And what else it's done? And Joe, I think maybe you quoted Brock Faber on that. It's made him play faster, and he looks faster. And having Brock, have the ability to step up and look at his offensive production. And so I think that itself lessens the blow tremendously of getting a top six forward at the trade deadline.
In the offseason, everybody wants to make it into like this pass-fail thing, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter how we go out. Oh, we went out and look at that, another year not getting out of the first round. But for you, like what are the factors you look at that you're going to kind of weigh to say whether or not this was a successful season?
Well, I think it's been a successful season. And, there's no, as you guys know, it's freaking hard to win. It's hard to win championships. It's hard to win rounds. Everyone else wants to too. And the National Hockey League is the best league in the world. And the players are great. And you're going to face Dallas. You're going to face Colorado. Great, Joe, you were in Tampa, I think, when Tampa lost in the first round to Columbus, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and Tampa had the best record in the league that year. And
of all time. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I look at it. I don't look at it as a failure if you don't win in the first round just because of what we're dealing with. But I tell you what, I think this team has a different feeling with the players that they're surrounded with. And everyone plays a role and plays a big key. Nick Foligno, leadership, toughness. McCarron, centering your fourth line, with his size and grit. And, so I think, as you know, Joe, you guys, you need everybody in the playoffs. And some guys are going to be in, some guys are going to be out, guys are going to get hurt. And so you need a lot of depth. And I think this team has a lot of depth. And so, I'm optimistic about where they're going, and I don't deem this as a failure, if they lose in the first round.
Fair. And
so that's me. But I'm an optimist, though, guys. I really am.
That's really hard to do here. So good on you. Good on you.
It is. I mean, listen, there was a time, and sometimes I should stay off social media, where people are mad that Kaprizov, he hasn't scored in, only X amount of games. I said, but guess what? He's going to end up with X, and then, he's going to get on a tear. He's going to get streaky. It's hard to score every single night in the National Hockey League. Not a lot of guys do it. I don't know who does, And so, anyhow, I'm confident.
That's totally fair. And obviously a little bit different asking this question now with everything that you've been through this year, but this summer, alumni golf outing, do we think we're going to be back to full swing, or are you just going to be hanging out having some pops?
I'm going to try my best. And if not, I'm going to be out there, at least because I can putt. I hate to say it, guys. So I've got great hands, so get me around the green. And, no. So I hope to be. I really do.
But before all this, who's winning? Heads up, you or Joe?
What do you mean? Why would you even ask that? I mean,
that wasn't on my list of questions. So
yeah, no, he's great. We compete, and we have, it's really fun.
Fair.
Fun. Well, and you know what? He was my mentor getting into this business, and it's been nothing but terrific to me, and teaching me the ropes, teaching me how to act, treating people with respect, and listening a lot to opinions, because you know what, you don't always have the answers. And if you think you have all the answers, you're wrong. And so I'm lucky to have them.
Nice. Well, we close every interview we do on here, Pat, with
I'm not singing. Go ahead.
I won't make you sing, I promise.
Okay. All
Not
right.
this time. Next time.
Final question brought to you, as always, by our good friends at Waggle Golf. First, make sure you head over to getyourwaggleon.com. Throw in promo code SP10 to take 10% off your entire order.
Pat, I want you to give me 3 names that round out your dream golf foursome. And this can be celebrities, athletes, it could be fictional, dead or alive. No rules.
Okay. Oh boy. Arnold Palmer would be one. Mario Lemieux would be 2. Guy Lafleur and
you. Right. So there's 3 people plus.
Yeah, but I'm going to make it a 5-some.
All right. I like it.
Okay. And Mike Bossy.
Wow.
How about that?
A lot of goals on that.
A lot of goals. And guys I watched growing up, and I could add a 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Boreas Salming. Let me tell you a quick story. All right. Before about Boreas Salming. I grew up, guys, all in Hibbing and no cable. And the only thing we got on Friday and Saturday nights were either the hockey night in Canada, either the Montreal Canadiens or the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I was still at a point where, when Boreas Salming came in the league, I was still in high school. And so I'm watching this guy and I'm like, oh my God. And then lo and behold, I leave the University of Minnesota, sign with the North Stars, play my first year in the minors, get called up. And one of my first games in the National Hockey League was against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Herb Brooks put me on the power play and we were in a 5-on-3 and I'm carrying the puck up. And I cross the blue line and I look up and it's Boreas Salming. And honest to God, I lost control of the puck and and I'm like, oh my God. And I get back to bench and Herbie says, what the hell are you doing? But I got so awestruck by going down, 1-on-1 against Boreas Salming. Crazy. Mm-hmm. But, you watch the guy, you watch kind of a great player, and then you're playing against them.
Surreal.
It is surreal. So anyway, that's my crazy story.
Awesome story, though. That's great.
I got nothing that compares to that. So I just like that you threw in 2 guys in your original 4 that would have been the best at what they did.
You got time for
the best hockey player of all time, and Bossy being the best goal scorer of all time, if healthy.
You got time for one more quick one, and I'll make it quick.
Yeah.
My brother Joe was playing for the Edmonton Oilers in the WHA, right? Game 7 of the last game ever played in the WHA was in Winnipeg. And so my father and my brother and I made the trek from Hibbing to Winnipeg, about 6-hour drive. And I watched the last game of the Avco Cup final. Winnipeg wins. So you know who was on that team? Wayne Gretzky.
Wow.
Okay. And he was 17 years old, right? I'm 15 at the time. And so, there were some characters on the Edmonton team. Cowboy Bill Flett, Dave Dryden, Ken's brother, was the goalie. I don't know if Bill Goldsworthy was on that team or not. Anyhow, so after the game, all the guys are going out. Well, Gretzky can't go out, right? Yeah. So he's like, come on. So I went up to his room and we're just, shooting the shit and whatever for a while, but I didn't, obviously he was fabulous, right? And then turned into what he was. But yeah, I met him when I was 15 years old.
That's crazy.
That's a really cool story, though.
Yeah.
You're the great one.
See, you hang around brothers and people and you get to meet somebody. You get to that's how it was, and that's how it is. So it was great.
That's great. We'll always have time for stories like that,
Yeah.
for sure. But thanks so much for joining us. I know you got a tournament this weekend, and I appreciate you jumping on talking about the Gophers, which I know you love very much. And we'll catch up with you soon, okay?
Hey, love to do it again, guys. Thanks for having me. All right, take care. Bye-bye. Bye.
All right, Isha, to wrap up the show here, let's talk a little bit Minnesota Wild. Just getting a different perspective, because I know not everyone listens cross-show within our network. Like, we have some people that are dedicated Judd's Buds listeners, dedicated Wildly Informed, dedicated MNCAA, dedicated Fellowship of the Rink.
Literally dedicated live stream. Dedicated live stream right now. There's people who don't listen to our show at all, but who jump in and go, "No, you're the curse," and then they lose to fucking Chicago on Thursday.
Yeah, but just different perspective for this show. Just general thoughts on the roster construction and really the viability of Stanley Cup contention for this team.
God, I'm trying to take out just the lore of and the history of the Minnesota Wild in playoffs when I answer this, because I haven't even
something more positive. Let's talk about Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah. Oh God. Hey, Rossi, 9 points in the last 4 or 5 games.
Well, I meant history. It's not like Vancouver has a much brighter history, other than they have made it to a Stanley Cup final.
Made it to the finals, but was it financially worth it for the province? I don't know. But
I will never financially recover.
I think this is a tough team, and Stanley Cup. I'm leaning no, but to make a statement, to go far, maybe even be loud for 2 rounds based on the construction, I'm excited. And I think the size is definitely going to matter in this case. And as long, and this is, you can say this with every team, but very much in particular with the Wild, as long as 2 of the big guns who can score in that, I'm going to say Kirill and Boldy, as long as one of them is in the lineup, I think they'll be okay. I think they'll be okay. The reason why I don't think they're going to get over the hump and where you said to get to the Stanley Cup, because I just think they don't have enough of those guys you can lean on in every situation, elite, players on the roster who can have those big moments when the rest of the guys are banged up, when some of their line mates are out of it, in those big moments, especially because they also haven't been in those big moments. None of really these guys have had reps in those big moments yet. And the ones who have, they haven't had it for a long time. So I think they're going to be a fucking pain in the ass in the first 2 rounds. Dallas or Colorado, I don't think it's going to matter. I think it's going to be a pain in the ass to anybody who plays them. Getting over one or both of them, I think there's a chance this year because of how the roster is constructed, but it's the goal scoring. It's they can probably stop teams from scoring a lot more goals and make it tough for other teams to play against them and score. But can they then either match it or get that 1 or 2 to put them over? That's my concern.
But I got to push back here then, because first I will say, am I looking at them and saying I really think they can win the Stanley Cup? Not necessarily. This is the first time in Minnesota Wild history that I've actually been I can see it. I can believe. I have never before looked at the team and been if things bounce right, they could win the Cup this year. Never thought that. This year?
That one season with Dino?
Nope.
Really?
Nope.
Okay.
I've never been tricked. But this year, I can see a way. And you just said you can't see them winning the Cup, but you can see them winning a round or 2. If they can beat Dallas and Colorado, who can they not beat?
No, true. It's just how intact are they going to be after those 2 games?
That's fair, but still, we don't know that.
No, for sure.
We don't know what's going to happen with that.
If they can get past both of those, then sure, they could win the Stanley Cup. They could win the Stanley Cup. Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying I think it will happen, but I do see it being possible, which is crazy. And I want you to talk real quick about Quinn Hughes, which I'm not giving you 30 minutes. I'm giving you a couple minutes. you forever have fought me on the whole Makar versus Hughes debate, which I'll say in my own defense. I think Quinn Hughes got jobbed for the Calder Trophy. I'm with you on that. Outside of that, I have absolutely been Makar over Hughes. But again, like, we're splitting hairs. Like, I'm not sitting here saying that, like, Makar made Hughes his bitch. It's more just like, if you look at the whole package of defensemen, like, I've always leaned Cale Makar, but it is so different watching him every week and being able to see not just what he does, but see the difference of what was this team before Quinn Hughes and what is it now. And granted, the Wild have benefited Quinn Hughes' play as well, but I just want to hear from you where, like, you were watching him regularly with Vancouver and now you're seeing with Minnesota. Like, have you seen Quinn Hughes' game change in that transition?
Oh yeah. I think he's more comfortable and he's playing with better guys on defense. Like, the best version of Quinn Hughes I saw in Vancouver was with Luke Schenn, and their styles worked well together. It was a great complementary defenseman, but watching him play with Faber and what he can do with Brock Faber, and how even with Jared Spurgeon, it's night and day. It's night and day with how much more he can do with the puck, both on the defensive side and offensive side of the game. And the Wild, as soon as he joined the Wild, it's like their scoring that was kind of dry in the beginning of the season started to pick up. So, and that, maybe could be a benefit, part because he was there, but also just the team was starting to get going. Obviously a big trade in the locker room just shakes things up. It just seemed like momentum was swinging in the right direction as soon as they acquired him as well. And yeah, he's benefited from setting up a lot of guys this year who maybe we didn't think were even going to put up the points that they're putting up this season as well. So it's like, I've said it all the time. The splitting hairs for me is Makar has the size, Hughes has the skating, and I just benefit the skating a little bit more than the size. And that's my splitting hairs. I will say in the Olympics, I was like, holy fuck, Cale Makar. Yep, I see what everyone else has been seeing now. I understand. He was so good in the Olympics. It even surprised me, and I gave him a little bit more respect than I've given him in the past. But just the skating of Quinn Hughes is the best I've ever seen in the National Hockey League in my entire life. And it just seems like it's getting better. And it's like when he has the puck and there's two guys in front of him or one guy going one-on-one, it's like he's going to spin around you. You cannot check him unless you're ramsacking him into the boards.
Yeah, and I think the skating lends itself to just the slipperiness, like the way that he is able to elude players.
Mm-hmm. And it's not great speed. He's not the fastest. He's just the best.
He's just so clean on those edges. The whole like, let's just go skate with your skates untied and see what happens. Apparently it works. And for me, it was less size than just, aside from what we saw Matt Boldy do in the gold medal game. Sorry, Isha, but Cale Makar is the better defensive player. And I will give the creativity, the skating, I'll give a lot of that edge to Quinn Hughes. No question. Cale Makar's got a better shot. He's better defensively. And the things that he lacks that Quinn Hughes has special talents. Mm-hmm. Cale Makar is just not deficient anywhere. He is the most balanced, like, well-rounded. He can do anything you need him to. And that's what put him over the edge for me. But again, I'm thrilled having Quinn Hughes. And I do think if this team had Cale Makar instead of Quinn Hughes, I'm not sure it makes the same impact for the Minnesota Wild, which is a weird thing I never thought I'd say. But again, it is fun seeing him regularly. I have gained more appreciation for him. I'm still not sure I'm going to change my stance, but he's completely shifted the dynamic of how this team operates. And the only question I have now is, it feels like we're pretty much locked in at that 3 spot in the Central.
Yeah.
Do we need to take some minutes away down the stretch run to make sure he's fresh for the postseason? Because him and Brock Faber seem like they're like set, like, no, we're playing 30 minutes every night. Yeah. Screw you. It's like, maybe we play 25 tonight. Maybe.
I mean, probably in theory, yes. Do the Wild management probably want that? Yes, but hey, they're young enough right now, and if they're hungry to play, let them fucking play. This isn't the NBA. There's no maintenance space for these
the
boys.
Second an injury happens to Quinn Hughes, fans lose their mind. How could you play him that much? How could you let him do that? It's like,
you
guys wanted this.
This is his job.
That's just what it is. But yeah,
it's like when the hockey fans are pissed when like the enforcers get hurt after a fight, when it's like, bro, it's their job. like they are literally here to do one thing.
No, I think they get pissed when Ryan Hartman punches the ice and injures his hand. Like, that's understandable.
I'm not mad at you for being mad. Or is Ryan Hartman becoming like more of a meathead as his career goes on?
You know what, though? He is going to be a guy to watch going into the postseason. He is always one that, as long as he can keep the emotions in check and not be like a problem with penalties, suspension, whatever, he is a difference maker come postseason. He is. There's no way around it. But you had to have been just like, I know you were on the road when this was all happening, but like, the Wild are big, like you said. And I'm currently re-binging Peaky Blinders because the new movie just dropped. I am it's crazy. I am at the season finale of season 4, and I just watched this episode yesterday where Alfie says to Tommy, "Big fuck little." And that seems to be the Bill Guerin mindset. And he's delivered on it. And I was against.
It worked with the Olympic team.
I was against the cost of acquisition for Michael McCarron, but so far I don't care. He's been everything we could have hoped for since.
He's producing a little too, which is great as well.
Yeah, and again, he big. Man, how do you think that fourth line gets constructed if healthy? Because again, I think the big caveat with all of this is they won't be healthy. They never are. No NHL team is fully healthy going into the postseason.
So many guys now. They have so many guys.
They've got options though when injuries do happen. So like that's a positive. That's good. My question is, perfect world, no one's hurt. What's your ideal fourth line?
Oh man, it's like which Foligno's down there? Probably Nick McCarron and God. Brett asked me the same thing, and we didn't really settle on
McCarron. Like Nick Foligno?
Yeah, Nick McCarron and
Marcus?
And I guess Marcus. Yeah, it's like, why not? Like you could put maybe like to put Marcus. I was like, maybe you put Marcus there. You put Marcus there.
Yeah, there's a lot of question marks because for me, if everyone's healthy, I don't see them bumping Marcus Johansson. And we can go through all the semantics, all the advanced analytics, whatever. Like, he has not been who he started the season with. You'd still pay him that contract every time and say thank you for what he did to start the season because it's when we really needed it because scoring was so deficient. But we'll be debating it all the way up until the game 1 of the first round, whether or not he should be playing or where he should be playing, whatever. Odds are he's going to be playing second line, worst case third line, just because of the trust they have in him. Yakov Trenyan's probably going to be on that fourth line.
Dude, and I'm okay with that.
Because the two guys I want to talk about are pretty much set to play on the third line, or maybe one elevates over Johansson for the second line, but first one's Vladimir Tarasenko. And hand up, like people have engaged quite a bit with the post I made. He hit 20 goals, and the last couple of weeks, he has been lasering that puck. He is putting it exactly where he wants. It is vintage Tarasenko shot. Granted, we're not seeing all of the other vintage Tarasenko stuff, but guess what? If he can just find open space and bury the puck, I don't care what else he does. That's great, especially on the third line, giving us depth scoring. I think at first I was totally wrong on him. Again, hand up. Like I did not think that he was gonna look the way he's looked, at least recently. Problem is, when the trade happened, I'm like, you know what? I understand the gamble. I get what you're going for. It was a little bit tougher to swallow because it was not a cheap contract to absorb. And then the beginning of the season was rough. And I'm like, yeah, bad idea. Nope, wrong. He looks awesome. I love Vladimir Tarasenko. This is great. Did you have different opinions when Bill Guerin made the trade and gave up the ever so important future considerations?
No, I was critical of with Brett, especially on Wildly Informed, of the games in which he was not good in, and Brett really dug into the numbers and was saying, and it was a little bit more bullish on like, oh, why is he here, blah, blah, blah. But I think for the most part, he came around to, okay, the positives are at least weighing, like neutralizing the bad. And then before I went on my break and on the road, they were really starting to be like more positives than negatives. Contract aside, I felt like this year wasn't the year where they really had to worry about the numbers too much. It's how we're going to proceed moving forward. So I thought it was a beautiful gamble where you gave up, not even a gamble, like it really at all. It was a great acquisition. And given that they had injuries in the beginning of the season and he had to play more, even when he wasn't playing that good, it was like, at least there's a veteran here who's, he couldn't really get any worse. He probably would have been benched if he was any worse than he was at the time. And I was just I remained positive on all the good things he did and him having the good games, even though there were like stretches of him doing nothing. And then you'd score like 2 goals in a game or like 4 or 5 points in a matter of like, 4 or 5 games. And then you go quiet for a bit. I didn't think that he was much of an anchor really at all, other than literally like the first 3 weeks of the season.
And
the long and the short of it, I was stoked, and I've always loved Vladdy. What's a rub off mean? Let's go, brother.
Vladdy the baddie.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that would bother you because you hate Patty, but
no, I'd rather chant that for Vladdy than Patty.
So the goal he scored in overtime, I've just never been like so taken aback by 3 guys swarming to the puck, and Tarasenko's just like, oh, all alone. Okay. Bing. But the guy that made the pass, Bobby Brink, you and I were both thrilled with the acquisition. And dude.
Well, you and I have been following him for a long time. That's like, and I've known about him since like I lived in Canada, because Bob McKenzie had like a weird draft crush on Bobby Brink, and he was so pissed that he wasn't drafted in the first round. And so like TSN did so many features on Bobby Brink. And I think even when I did radio back in Canada, like he made our name of the game segment, because we did like whoever had like cool names every week, and Bobby Brink was like in our top 5 or something like that. So I've loved him for a long time.
Well, that was before you made it out here. I watched him as a sophomore in the tourney, and he torched.
Dude, so I've just loved watching him in the NHL, even on other teams, like keeping tabs, of him in Philly. So when I found out that that's who Jiricek, that's who was coming back for Jiricek, who I didn't think Jiricek had much value, like right at that point at the trade deadline at all, bro. I was like I told Wes Walls, I truly didn't understand the outrage or the level of outrage based on,
You misunderstood the outrage. They weren't outraged that Jiricek was traded for Brink. They were getting like angry over the original Jiricek trade.
No, I know, and I don't understand why getting angry over something that like it was low, realistically at the end of the day, low cost, because that pick was probably never seen Minnesota ice based on where they are right now.
Spoken this to death. We don't need more time on it. It made no sense, but people are going to be mad about what they're going to be mad about.
And B, Damon Hunt is back, so there you go.
But Saturday, that was his like Minnesota Wild coming out party. That he was the best player for the Wild that game. It was insane. He was all over the ice. He was in people's faces. Sick goal, and then of course the setup for the overtime winner. But like he was making an impact every time he stepped on the ice, and I think we all would love for him to work his way into being third fiddle with Ack and Boldy. But even if not, dude, him, Tarasenko, and Yurov for a third line, or Hartman, whoever it ends up being, like that can work. That could be interesting,
especially because especially because Yurov's just gonna he's just gonna get better. He has been getting better and better, and like points wise, he's gonna probably put up like 10 to 20 more points next year. So like that could be such a nasty line.
I'm not worried about next year, but yes. Also, who knows if Tarasenko is part of that next year? But
it's true. Okay, well, just Yurov and Brink moving forward could be a problem. I'm just so stoked because we said at the beginning of the season, like, we expect 30 points out of him, and that's a good year, and like he's probably gonna hit that, or he's just gonna be shy of it.
Well, I want to end on this question, and it's a little random and out of nowhere, and I didn't tell you I was going to ask this, but it's one that I'm going to talk quite a bit with Z about. I guess tonight, as people listen to this as it drops on our Judd's Buds live stream, everyone tune in. We will be talking a lot of Minnesota Wild. We're going to break down the NCAA regionals with the brackets that just got announced on Sunday. And of course, like, Z was also very tight with Jesse. I'm sure we'll be talking quite a bit about her, and I know a lot of people in the live chat will be chiming into stories because everyone loves Jesse. But my question is, which two players are more impactful? Because everyone wants to say like, oh, we beat Dallas in overtime and we didn't have Kaprizov or Ek. Dallas didn't have Rantanen or Hintz. That's two big names for both teams, a big-time center, big-time winger. Which two are more impactful? I guess let's put it this way. If you could choose all four play or none of the four play, which do you choose?
Ooh.
That kind of gives the answer in a roundabout way.
That's a great question. None of them play.
It's tough, right?
Oh, it's tough because Ek, like I've seen like the numbers too, like the Wild like win like over 50% of their games like when Ek is in the lineup, right? It's like, oh man.
Well,
but
here's my caveat.
I'll go none because I'm just.
If you promise a full slate of health for all four, if they do play, I'm saying I want them in because the only reason I would lean out. Going to get injured anyways. Yeah, so might as well, since he's already out, trade Kaprizov for both Hintz and Rantanen. But
I honestly don't even remember what a healthy Ek like looks like because he's been playing at like 60, 70, 80% his like whole career.
Well, the weird thing for me is I think Kirill Kaprizov is the best player of that group, and I think Ek is the most built for the playoffs. But I also weirdly think Mikko Rantanen will give us fits. Like he is just. Like, so obviously we know what the talent is, but he's a bull, dude. He's a big boy. Apparently he is the moose. Don't fact check that, Minnesota Wild fans, but he's an interesting one. I've always been a Roope Hintz fan. Like, I think he's sick. I think he is a better player. Like, he is more skilled, brings a lot more offensively than Ek.
But not as impactful.
In the playoffs, especially for a team like the Wild that do not have center depth, you can't lose your best center who is a two-way juggernaut.
You need that net
for that
front
reason
presence
alone and the impact he can have on the power play, net front, I almost have to say I want all four in, but god damn, it's really hard for me to say, please let Mikko Rantanen play.
I know. It's just like I'm saying all four not in, but caveat Boldy, you better show up that night because we need you, bud.
Yeah, that's no golfing for Matt Boldy.
Oof. No, he had a tough one in that Chicago game too. Although, I mean, 3 posts, not by him, but like I think he had one of them. Tarasenko had one. Forget who had the third, but yeah, that was a rough one. But what I will say, I remember I had someone in the chat because I was covering that game live who was like, this team is so soft. I'm like, the one thing that the Wild were not in that game were soft. Like, they had like 30 hits. And like, yeah, every player was a bowling pin. Even Zuccarello was like, I mean, Zuccarello's been freaking feisty the last few games too. He's getting in guys' faces, trying to scrap again. I think it was like, it was one of the younger guys who like pulled, I think it was Europe. I wasn't Europe. One of the younger guys like was pulling Zuccarello. We were like, dude, like, I think it was Faber, like, get out of here. Oh, love to see it. Zuccarello playing with an edge in the playoffs. I don't know how long he'll last doing that, but god damn, it'll be fun.
Yeah. All right, that does it for this week. Again, please at least share, if not contribute to the GoFundMe for Jesse's husband, Mike, who unfathomable position he's in. Check out our other shows this week as well. Judd's Buds Monday night live stream. Again, heavy Minnesota Wild NCAA regionals breakdown and a little bit of Wild prospect sprinkled in. Isha, will there be a Wildly Informed with you and Brett this week?
Yes. Either Wednesday
He
or
says
Thursday.
confidently.
Either Wednesday. We will be doing one Wednesday.
And is there going to be a watch-along live stream for a
either Lightning or Panthers? One of the Florida teams. I will...
Against a Florida.
Yeah, against a Florida. One of the two.
Lovely. Check all that out. And next week on Fellowship of the Rink, we bring you Bobby Brink, which I got to give credit to Brett. Fellowship of the Brink. I guess that's what we're going to go with.
Fellowship of the Brink. That is great. And by the way, because as I go back to my production chair here, April 2nd, I will likely be at the Wild game cheering the Wild to win against the Vancouver Canucks. But I also want Zeev and, Ogren and Marco Rossi to at least get a point in that game. So I want Gavin McGregor, #1 for the freaking Canucks. Let's go, baby.
Gavin McGregor. Okay. I got you. Yeah. I can roll with it.
Let's go, baby.
All right. Now, with that, check out all the other stuff. Enjoy this week with the Wild at fun matchups with the Florida teams. At least it's way better than back-to-back Chicago's. But we'll be back next week. More fun stuff. Bobby Brink. Till then, stay classy, stay to hockey.